excited to be here again with Sheri Ryland. It's been a minute since she's been in our space. And Sheri, welcome back. It's just delightful always to sit and talk with you. You know, you have been so instrumental in my own grief journey. I think we began working together at about the 3 year mark, maybe, after James had died. And you worked with me extensively using EMDR and have been so, so helpful in reframing, how I approach really tough memories. Um, and we're coming up on the holidays, and I grieve more at the holidays. I have much more pain, I think, at the holidays because I'm remembering the way things used to be and the rituals are so different. The house I live in is different. And I don't manage myself nearly as well, I think, in the holiday times. So I was hoping you'd talk to us a little bit this morning about the validity that, grief is just magnified during the holidays and what can we do to help ourselves through it?
Yes, definitely. The holidays are the hardest time for people when it comes to grief, or when it comes to any anniversaries, those kind of things. But the holidays are harder mostly because everybody is looking for joy and something to lighten their year. We look forward to that because it's exciting. We get to look through our kids' eyes at what Christmas is like and what
Yeah.
the excitement of the world, right? And when we feel that somebody's missing from that, whether that's a person that's passed away or whether that's no longer having, like if you're divorced or somebody's missing at the table, it's magnified because people are looking for that person. So there are times when people will have a chair like for that person in
Oh, wow.
place of them not being there as a reminder. And one of the things is we forget that people still want to hear about the person who's passed.
Mhm.
Maybe not so much if you're divorced, but they but they want to hear about the person who's passed, right? But people are afraid that that's going to bring up sad memories and make you feel like that person is going to be more teary or more upset if that person is discussed. But I think it's actually been shown that people want to
Mhm.
keep that person's memory alive and brought up. And do you remember that time when um
Mhm.
all those memories that really keep them in that moment? We forget how important that is.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
interesting you say that. I feel like I've done so many things wrong in my grief journey with my children, but I,
Mhm.
I think one of the things we all together have done well is that we tell stories about life with dad. Daddy doing this, or we make fun of him for the goofy things he did. We talk about him all the time, especially, when we're all together at holiday
Mhm.
gatherings. And yes, in some ways it's hard, but it's also usually the boys will tell something hilariously funny that daddy did,
Yeah.
and it lightens me. It doesn't hurt me. But
Mhm.
that is a thread that has certainly kept all the memories fresh and alive is that every time the boys and I come together, we do tell daddy stories, and it does help. I mean, it helps a lot. One of the things I was thinking about as you were talking, I talk to so many, especially women leaders these days, and they might not have lost a person, they might not be divorced, but they still feel an identity crisis. They've lost themselves in marriage, in motherhood. They might have lost themselves in success, and they're living a success dream that's really not who they are on the inside.
Right.
I think the holidays also just it's kind of like it shines the light on all the stuff that's wrong.
Right. I love that you brought up that grief is more than just the passing of somebody
Mm-hmm.
or the missing of a person being there from divorce or anything else, right? It's the loss of something, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when you talk about the idea of losing your identity, where, you know, like use myself as an example, having a stepchild and then being divorced and then not having that stepchild there. Um, and feeling like, oh, that was because he was the youngest, and that's where all of the we got to see the new excitement of Christmas
Mm-hmm.
again. Because I had older children, um, but there's so much more of now your kids are working, or the trying to find the identity of being an adult now, and where do I spend my time, and all those things. Like, so those are all identity things as well, trying to identify as, can I just come home? Let's say you are a successful person and you come home and everyone's looking at you in a different way, and you're like, well, I'm still the same person I always was. um, so yeah, it's about a change in perspective and a change in what we're used to, and that's what we're
Mm-hmm.
grieving.
Yeah. Yeah, I can kind of play out both sides of that. Like I can remember
Hmm.
years as my children were growing up, we always went home for the holidays to James' family, and
Hmm.
huge, large Italian family, people everywhere, and I definitely felt like a fish out of water. And
Hmm.
I was in this, in my daily life until the holidays, I'm trying to run a business. I was
Hmm.
trying to, I was managing a lot of people, trying to run a business, juggle the home thing, make sure the kids were good. And I would walk into this room of all of these people just chattering, and they had some relation to each other, and I felt so completely alone in this room full of people. And I would find myself going, I really don't even know how to start some of these conversations. I don't know where I fit here. And more than likely, I usually just went quiet, which is not really my personality to do. But I would sit
Right.
in that room full of all of his family, and they were loud Italians, and they were having a great time. And I'd be like, I just, not judgment on them, I just didn't feel, I couldn't find my place there. And I've
Right.
often wondered if that doesn't happen at most holiday tables.
Oh, I think that happens a lot, right? Especially when you're blending families. Even if you've been together for a long time, as soon as children come along, or other dynamics play out in the holidays, right? We bring a new person in, no matter who it is, but also no matter how long you've been together, you're still the new kid on the block compared to people who've lived there, as a family all these years, and they've known each other since they were little kids, or a mom and a child, right? But when we come in as somebody, an outsider, it feels really uncomfortable unless
Mm,
you've made that connection. And not all connections are easy to make.
yeah.
Like, I'm a very outgoing person, and I have the same issue. If I don't feel 100% like, I'm not gonna, like, if I don't feel like that's my group, it feels really hard to break into certain groups. And that's a big
Hmm.
feeling of a loss as well. Feeling like you're alone in a room full of people is a pretty horrible feeling.
It's
So,
painful.
yes.
It's and unexpected, but really
Yes.
painful. So,
Right.
walk me through how we manage ourselves in some of those situations we've just discussed. How can we do it in such a way where we're healthier, we're
Mhm.
maybe more in tune with ourselves? Walk me through how you would advise us as a therapist.
I would say, in the part where we were discussing about your husband's family, um, that's a harder situation, right? I can't go in and change the people that are there. What I can focus on is myself. Why do I feel uncomfortable? Why is it that I haven't taken the time to understand them differently? What is it about them that I could start to bring to the conversation so that I could also feel more comfortable there, right? Unless there's a lot of stress and tension in that relationship. And then that's also where your partner has to come along, and we need to discuss that with them of, can you bring me into the conversations a little bit more? Can you help me out through this? Having that connection with your partners is really important so that they don't also make you feel like an outsider.
I think that's such a good point, and I don't know that James and I did such a great job of that, but I'm replaying in my mind how that might have gone if I had said to him, "Hey, I go in there and I just feel so alone. Would you kind of
Right.
bring me into some of the conversations instead of me just
Right.
always feeling like a sidebar?" Um, and so I think that's really, really good advice. Let me go for a hard one. So
Okay.
let's think about children either of divorce or children like my children who've lost a parent and they're coming home for the holidays and everything is different. Like for my kids,
Mhm.
there's not a big Italian family around. We're in a completely different house. There's no dad.
Mhm.
There's no stepfather. There's just mom.
Mhm.
And they probably have all kinds of losses that I'm not even aware of, or feelings of losses at holidays. I'm sure they
Right.
wish it would just go away really fast. They didn't have to feel all that.
Well, and I think it also depends on how you present the holidays, right? It's, are we trying to put on a face as if we are like everybody's okay? Right,
Hmm.
and it depends on how many holidays have we had since this passing or since a divorce. And again, it depends on the age, but the idea is we want to rebuild that connection. We're going to say, okay, we're making new memories. We're
Hmm.
making, not that we're not going to include the memory of this person who's no longer with us, but we're creating new things, right? And when people move away, we aren't going to always have, like when our kids move away, we're not always going to have the same thing happen when they come home, right? That's where we get stuck in the idea of traditions and everything has to be done a certain way. That's when we have a lot of disappointment. That's when we have people like, oh, we've always done it this way and we're going to keep doing it that way. And that doesn't serve anybody other than that one person who wants to be strict about it. So really being flexible in how we do things, how we have new traditions, and allowing those people to be part of creating those new traditions.
Yeah, I need to really think through that, Sherry, and um, find my way into setting it up that way for my kids and family.
Mm-hmm.
So it is it's something that's much more what's the word I want? Like they can kind of have a sensory experience that is s- that I set up for them in an easy way,
Well,
right?
but I think the point is to, you don't have to set it up for them. And I think that's when we feel like as the parent that we have to do all the planning, all the setting up, that adds for more stress. And oh my gosh, am I going to get this right? Are the kids going to be happy enough? Am I going to be getting enough attention? But when we do it as a group decision of saying, hey, how do you want to do it this year? What can we do? How do we either celebrate the person who's no longer here, or how do we make it more about the who is here,
Hmm.
if it's a divorce and it's, we don't want to, I'm sorry, we don't want to celebrate, that person who
Right.
I'm like damn happy that they're not in my house anymore, right? But we want to celebrate our new traditions, and we want to
Yeah.
celebrate bring back some of the things that the kids do remember, that weren't tied to a specific person. But we're doing this as a group, as a collective, as no longer as mom or dad having to be the one in charge of how things are done. And I think that allows people's emotions to be more in control and saying, oh, I get to have a say in some of this.
So let's go back to just kind of the overarching theme that grief is magnified at the holidays. When you look at that just across the board for whatever pain you're going through, and I always say everybody's going through something.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have to be major loss. It doesn't have to be that there's a person missing from your holidays, or that you've been through a
Right.
divorce, or that you're in but everybody has some interior pain, and somehow it is magnified at the holidays.
Absolutely.
Tell us how we deal with that.
Well, I think it depends on, are you the person who is normally the bubbly person? Are you the person who's normally the one running the show? Are you the person that's normally kind of off in the corner anyway? It's taking a breath before you walk in the door, having a discussion with the people who are important that day about how do we get through this. Because communication is really the key. How do I communicate with the people that are there? How do I really have a talk and discussion with myself about, okay, I got to get through this. Where am I going to stay? What's my lane? How do I need to really present myself in this situation? And that really is a high level way. I mean, a high level way of being. But not everybody can do that. So that's why it's super important to just say, okay, I can get through this. That's the first
Mhm.
thing I'm going to say to myself is I can get through this. I'm going to remind myself, why am I here? And then also get to ask that same question. Do I even need to be there? And I know we've
Mm.
discussed that before, right? Am I going because I need to be there? I want to be there, or someone's going to think something's wrong with me if I don't show up.
Mhm.
So it's really having a good look at yourself in that time of your grief and saying, okay, what do I need for myself? It's about insight. It's about sitting there, having a real deep discussion with yourself and hopefully with the people that you're going to be with. But unfortunately, family's not always so easy to communicate with. So it's really having that discussion with yourself. How do I sit here and get through this? I'm going to take a breath. I'm going to remind myself of why I'm here. What's my purpose in being here? Um, really having good communication with yourself.
Well, and so like, the things that always come up, I remember going home for the holidays at about 24, and my mom had a big, relatively big family, mostly very strong matriarchal women, and still, all the women gravitated toward one area of the room and all the men gravitated toward another area. And I'll never remember sitting down and one of my aunts said, "Well, why aren't you married yet?"
Oh,
And I
yes.
was and I was like taken so aback, and yet it was a sensitive topic. Everybody's like, "Why isn't she dating? Why isn't she married?" And I remember just bursting into tears right there in front of everybody. It just triggered all the things that I thought I wasn't for
Right.
my family coming home, after, being away for a year. And oh, it was terrible. I
Right. Well,
wish I'd had,
everybody.
yeah. No, I wish I'd had the tools to go, you know what, this is only going to last about an hour and a half. And I don't want to be married, Aunt Susan, because I'm not ready. Like I wish I'd had
Right.
the awareness to talk myself through. Okay, just breathe. It doesn't matter what she asks you.
Right. Well,
But
and that's the thing is you have the old school people who are going to be in the room, right? The grandparents, the great aunts, the people who aren't the Gen Zs that are very great about expressing their feelings and know all about mental health. There are the older ones that are like, "Girl, what happened? I don't understand. Just find a man and get on with your life," right?
right.
And but being able to say it's okay to be clear and direct and say that's just not where I'm at. And
Well,
because you have to come in knowing that. When you're going to this holiday this season, ask yourself, if you're not seeing somebody or you're not married or those things are going to be ready for that. Be ready for those questions because they're going to be there, right? um Aunt Sue is not going to hold back because you feel uncomfortable, right? She's so instead of being the one that's crying in the room, have your answer ready. And
yep.
the answer could
Somebody's
just
going to
be
say
that's
something
not for
about your
me.
weight. You're too
Yes,
skinny or you're too fat. I mean, that's
absolutely.
that's always going to come up at the holidays with
Yes.
family members because they think they have a right to talk about your weight.
Absolutely. That's the first thing. Oh, I wouldn't eat that cake. You know, right. That I come from a Hispanic family and everybody has to comment on your waist, whether it's, oh, you're looking a little bit skinnier today. I'm like, okay, I guess compared to how I was fat yesterday, but thanks. Um, it's, it's being able to, say to yourself before you go there, these are the things that I feel self conscious about. What's the worst that they can do to me? And then really be able to walk in and say, okay, I have an answer for that, right? It's just like when you're dealing with a narcissist and you have to be able to just have this stone cold answer where you're just like, that's just the way it is,
Yep.
right?
I'm just thinking about,
I'm really enjoying the food. Thank you.
yeah.
That's why I'm looking a little rotund today because I'm really enjoying your food, right? So it's using humor and not everybody has that ability, but really to be able to say to yourself, okay, why do I care about what these people are saying before you go there? Really having that solid answer before you walk into that room.